here. So I'll go through a few examples and it won't be so bad if we just follow along. So this is what we'll be doing. Okay. So review of everything. Okay. Our goal is to find out what set of points, or x and y, will be true for both. So if you did a check, which you will do, 3 times what number plus what number equals 7, and the same number, 4 times that same number plus 2 times that number equals 16. So when we do a check, it's true for both. Kind of like the absolute value had 2 to check in. Here you have 2 to check in. You have 2 variables to check in with 2 equations, and they have to be true for both. There's only one set of points that work for both equations, the same x and the same y. Okay. Let's see. What can it be used for? 2 equations, it means you have 2 different sets of conditions. So if you know the price per gallon and you know how many gallons, okay, you can figure it out that way. So you can use to solve some regular problems as well, and there'll be some on your homework, and we'll look at them together. But first, let's just practice solving, and we'll apply it later. Okay, so we had 2 methods. One was the substitution method. Substitution, in other words, plugging in one equation into the other. So to use the substitution method, one of the equations has to be x equals or y equals. Okay. And on your quiz, you'll be asked to use one method or another. You'll also be asked to just solve it, which means you can choose. So if it tells you to use substitution, you have to use substitution. If it says elimination, you have to use elimination. If it says solve, just go ahead and choose. Alright, so ask yourself, which one of these would be the easiest to solve for x equals or y equals? Which equation, top or bottom? Bottom. And you might want to, how do you know that? Well, if I was going to solve this for x, I would have to add 3y and divide by 2. If I solve this for y, I'd have to subtract 2x and divide by negative 3. If I solve this equation for y, I'd have to subtract x, divide by 2. But if I solve this equation for x, I only have to do one step. So really, you could do any one of those I just went over, but why not just do the easiest one? Okay. Why not do just the easiest one? So if I solve that bottom equation for x, this just equals 15 minus 2y. Alright. So this x right here is the same as this x right here. And if this x equals 15 minus 2y, then so does this x in here. So substituting means I'm going to replace. I'm going to put this 15 minus 2y where this x is here, and then solve that equation. So I have 2. That's going to use a lot of the stuff we've been going over, solving equations. For x is 15 minus 2y. Don't forget the rest of it. Minus 3y equals 2. Alright, we can solve this. What's that? 30 minus 4y equals 2. Okay. 30 minus 7y equals 2. Subtract 30 from both sides. 7y equals 2 minus 30 is negative 28. Divide by 7. Oh, sorry, divide by negative 7. Y is positive 4. Yeah. Alright, so where are we right now? Well, our answer is going to look like this. I know that 4 is my y value. Now you'll notice that you'll solve for a different variable maybe to start off with and get the second variable after. The order doesn't matter. So if you get x equals first, that's fine. Just make sure you put it in the right place. Remember, this is the first one is always x, the second one's always y, regardless of which order you solve it in. So yeah, we found y first. It doesn't mean it's in the first space here. Alright, plug it back in to our other equation here. 15 minus 2 times y is 4. Now, I know 15 minus 8 is 7. Sure. How do I know that's right? Plug it in and check. So it has to work for both. So 2 times 7 minus 3 times 4 must equal 2. Does it? Yes or no? Okay. 14 minus 12 equals 2. 2 equals 2. Good there. And do one more on the second one. It has to work for both. Let's see, not x. So that's going to be, what, 7 plus 2 times 4. Does that equal 15? So 7 plus 8 equals 15. Yes, 15 equals 15. Okay. So before you turn in your test or quiz, you write this, 100%. You've checked it. You know for a fact. You don't hope to get a good score when you get it back, and maybe you did good. Before each of these, before you turn it in on your quiz, it's 100%. Or you keep working until you run out of time. But you'll know if it doesn't work. You're not going to put something wrong. You won't accidentally switch it and say it's 4,7 and say that's my answer. Because once you do this, if you switch these, you'll see you don't get 2, you don't get 15. So you can always know. Alright, so that's the bottom line. You can always check. Always check. So, in general, we chose a variable to isolate. Like, I had to decide, should I solve for x, solve for y, on which equation, which path should I go. Decision there was whatever's easier. It's the easiest to solve for the second x, because I wouldn't have to divide it all. Here I'd have to divide by 2, divide by -3, divide by 2. If I solve for this x, all I had to do was subtract, and there's no fractions. Quite nice. Solved it by subtracting 2y, substituted in, okay, and solved it. Yeah. Go over here, system of equations. Yeah. Let's have you guys try this. So, choose a variable, step 1. Choose a variable. So x or y, you have 2 choices you have to make. First or second equation. So what variable are you solving for on what equation? That's what step 1 is. So looking at both of these, what do you think is the easiest to solve for? Alright, so second equation, which variable? X, yeah. Really, you're looking for where there's no number in front, there's no coefficient. That's going to be the easiest. So 7, 11, -3, just 1. That's what we want. How can you solve this to get to be x equals? Okay. How can you get this to be x equals? You got -3y, so yeah, add it. Do the opposite, both sides. So that's 0. Now I have just x left over. 0 plus 3y is 3y. Did that. Let's go ahead and substitute it in. So this x and this x are the same exact x. So if this x equals 3y, so does this x right here. So I just have to plug it in. 7y plus 26 plus 11 times x, which is x is equal to 3y. Finish it up. So let's see here. Subtract 33y. Let's move it over here. Seven minus 33 is, let's see here, 26. Is that right? Negative. Good. Sign does make a difference. If we don't have that negative, it's going to come out wrong. So my answer is 1 with a negative, right? So right now we're at y equals negative 1. Make sure you put it under the y. Take that y, plug it back in, what we saw for earlier. 3 times y, 3 times negative 1. There we go. Now, as always, do your check on the original. It has to be the original. So when you do your check, you're going to do 7 times negative 1, right? So 7y equals 26 plus 11 times negative 3. And just verify. So we got here 26 minus 33. And negative 7 equals negative 7. That's good. Second one a little bit faster. Negative 3 minus 3 times negative 1 equals 0. Negative 3 plus 3 is negative times a negative. Yeah, and then we get 0 equals 0. Works for both. And this is the only point, negative 3, negative 1, that works for both. Now, if we were to graph these, where do you think they would intersect? Any ideas? If we were to graph both of these lines, where would they intersect? Best part. Yeah. Negative 3, negative 1. So if we graph both those lines, it's the only point where they intersect. It's the only point where if you plug it in, it will work in both checks. Okay. Only one answer. Okay, so the answer really is where these two would intersect. Okay. So we have elimination method. We also have the the substitution method, and we also have this elimination method. Okay. Idea here. If you just add everything together, one of the variables eliminate. Okay. So don't write this down, but here's the idea, is that if you add these up in columns, see how the x's and the y's are all lined up? That's a y. You want to do this in such a way that either this comes out to be 0 or this comes out to be 0. In the case they both come out to 0, you might have one of those no solutions, infinite solutions. We'll look at those in a minute. But that's the idea. We want one of these to come out to be 0. As you can see, that doesn't happen here. So you do a little prep work. So if you wanted to get a 0, what would be a good way of doing it? So in a perfect world, if you want to get a 0 for one of the variables, what would you change? Which sign? On the x or the y? On the y. Yeah, so you're thinking, well, if I want to get 0, that'd be nice if this was negative y, because negative y plus y would be 0. So you make that happen. Okay? In order to change this to a negative, though, we have to change everything. Multiply everything by negative 1. That'll change all the signs. So you don't get just to go in there and say, well, I want to change this to a negative. You can, but you have to change everything else as well. So we get now negative 2x minus y equals negative 4. So it's 1, to 3 times. We definitely need that change, but we have to change the other two as well. And now the bottom one's just fine. So our goal is just to make sure we get a 0 somewhere. Well, now when I add these up, negative 2 plus 3 is 1x. This equals 0. That's 0. That's the idea of eliminating. We now have done the elimination method. Elimination method means you get one of the variables to add to 0. Negative 4 plus 8 is 4. X is 4. Once again, 4 comma something. Let's take our answer and plug it in and see what happens. So make sure you plug it in for the right variable. Okay. Plug it into the original equation. Nice thing here is you get to pick which one. So you can plug it into the top one, the original, or the bottom one, whatever you like. Pick one. I'm going to do both. So if I plug it into the top one, I'll get this. Eight plus what is positive 4. So 8 equals just negative 4 after you subtract 8 on both sides. If I wanted to choose the second one, I'd say 3 times 4 plus y equals 8. Okay, that's 12 plus y equals 8. Subtract 12 on each side, you get y equals negative 4. Okay. So, or one or the other. Don't do both for every problem, but I just wanted to put your mind at ease that you don't have to figure or worry about picking the right one. You can do either. With the substitution method, you had to use, we solved, you had to plug it into the one we started with. With the elimination method, it's more of, well, whatever's easier, go for it. Okay, and then of course do a check. Okay, does 2 times 4 plus a negative 4 equal 4? And does 3 times 4 plus a negative 4 equal 8? Yeah, 8 minus 4 is 4, okay. And 12 minus 4 does equal 8, okay. Alright, so once again, notice how fast this check is. I mean, that's the fastest part of everything. That took maybe 20 seconds to do both of these. I don't want anybody skipping this saying that's too much to ask, to making sure you're passing every quiz test in the class altogether. I don't want anybody skipping out on the checks. Okay, as you guys know from before, I'll just hand them back to you and say do them. So might as well spend the extra 20 seconds per problem and do it, and make sure you have 100%. All right, one more. Okay, so how are we going to eliminate? If we add these together now, we'll get 7x and 20y. So they don't eliminate, neither does. So what can we do? What can we multiply by so that both of these, or one of them eliminates? Any ideas? What do you think? And why is that? So if we do this, we'll have a 12x and a negative 12x. That does equal 0. Now what if I didn't want to put a negative down here? Does that work? No. 12x plus 12x is 24x. So the one positive, one negative thing, that's important. What if I put a negative on the top instead of the bottom? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to see some differences of your papers tomorrow when you guys start checking. I don't want you to automatically assume you're wrong or assume you're right. Okay? But if it's different and you guys get the same answer, you did two different methods that are fine. And we have to be okay and comfortable with doing it different ways. What if I wanted to cancel out the y's instead? Could I have done that? Yeah, I could have multiplied the top by 5 and the bottom by negative 4, and then we'd have 20y and negative 20y. So you guys could completely cancel out a different variable altogether. And again, don't forget, 1 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have to multiply the entire equation. So we have negative 12x minus 16y equals, let's see here, that'd be 40 plus 16, that's 56. Is that right? Check my work. 30 plus 21 is 51. Okay. Are we good? What's negative? Negative 56. Good. If you notice your answers, like if we add those together, we would have got 107 and some wacky stuff. If you notice your answer's getting a little high and out of control, that's a good chance that you did 99% of it correct and you missed one little negative. So it's one of those weird things that when it all goes wrong, you know, when everything seems to be coming out incorrect, here's what some of you might think. You know, I'm not getting anything correct. I'm close to like 0. I'm getting like nothing correct. I'm way over here close to 0%. More than likely, you're probably like at 95%. You did everything right, but you missed a negative, and that's why it's wrong. So I don't want you to erase everything and start all over and over and over. Focus on finding this one little negative that's missing instead. Now, sometimes we give up on math and we want to stop just because it seems like I'm way over here. I'm not getting anything right. But if you're missing a negative on every single problem, you did everything 95% correct every single time, but missed one little detail. So keep that in mind. If it seems like it's all out of control, you're probably closer than you think. Just don't give up and, you know, look for this stuff. Look for the non-algebra stuff. Since we're so focused on algebra, sometimes you just think about only algebra. Forget the, oh, I got a negative there, that kind of stuff. All right, so here we go. Negative 56 plus 51 is negative 5. Negative what equals, yeah, negative 5, that'd be 5. Divide both sides by a negative 1 or multiply both sides by a negative 1. There we go. Plug into either equation, plug y equals 5 into either one. Doesn't matter, you'll get the same thing. 3x plus 4 times 5 is 14. 3x plus 20 is 14. Subtract 20 on both sides. Get 6. Negative 6. Once again, those negatives. Because you might see 20 and 14. Oh, 20 minus 14 is 6. Remember, it's 14 minus 20. Negative does make a difference. That kind of stuff. So show all those steps. You want to be absolutely certain. Or if you skipped any little step and you got it wrong, you know, maybe go back and write it all out. Okay, and then do a check. 3 times negative 2 plus 4 times 5, does that equal 14? 4 times negative 2 plus 5 times 5, does that equal 17? Okay. Negative 8 plus 25. Yep, 25 minus 8, that's 17. Good, 100%. Negative 6 plus 20, does that equal 14? Yeah, 20 minus 6 equals 14. Boom, 100%. No questions. Now the odds are in the back of the book, so you should check those, of course. If your check is not working out and you can't seem to find the right number. Yeah, question? Nope. Next. Herman. I didn't say yes. I said nope. Yeah, probably not a good time to ask in the middle of a lesson. You know, the part where you're supposed to be learning how to do it, not a good time to make an exit. All right, so let's have you guys get started. Here. So you'll see it says solve by using substitution, solve by using elimination. So make sure you use those methods. Yeah. Let's go ahead and start. We'll do a few together, help you get started. So if you want to continue this page, that's fine. If you want to get a clean sheet, that's fine as well.